Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Recap, a guy's review. It is the night one finale recap right now. As you guys know, last night we saw Clayton. I don't want to say self-destruct, but he is caught in a conundrum, to say the least. We'll see if he can get out of it tonight for the season finale of The Bachelor. But as you guys know, a special night one, part one recap. We're going to get right into it. Do me a favor, follow me on Instagram at DNeals and Facebook. My pro page on Facebook is Dave Neal, and be a part of the Dave Neal community on Facebook. Just search Dave Neal community and you'll be able to stay in touch with us. Hang out over there, and don't forget to hit the like button an odd number of times and subscribe. Let's get right into it. Oh boy, we start with the part one finale. We open with Jesse Palmer in the live studio audience. And does Jesse Palmer not age gracefully? He's looking better every day. He's just like, is this what they get in Canada with that nice healthcare insurance? Does everyone get to look like Jesse Palmer? He says we're about to watch the rose ceremony from hell, and we're all like, we know. This is like before you watched Human Centipede, but all your friends were like, you got to see this movie. I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but just watch it. I feel like that's what's going on with Human Centipede. This is the Human Centipede of reality TV. All right, let's get into it. I'm trying to work my graphic right here. Okay, more excited to watch this finale than Clayton is, probably to, actually hook up with people in the fantasy suite. I feel like this is our fantasy suite. We get to live vicariously through him, for better and for worse. We open in Iceland with church hymnals. Let's go to my Iceland photo. Is this one right here? There it is. We have Clayton on the left and Macaulay Culkin on the right from Home Alone. God bless the 90s, right, folks? And Clayton sits alone in the church, about the same attendance as one of my comedy shows. Come on, join the show. He looks like a steroid version of Steve Jobs. Doesn't he just look like Steve Jobs made it his job to work out every day? He says he's so broken and breaks down. Hey, look, I feel for him. This whole recap is going to be me feeling bad for Clayton boy. Clayton Echard, you caught me there. It's early. It's 6 a.m. What do you want from me? He says he's so broken. Jesse and Clayton chat on a park bench. Jesse's like, how about tell them everything? Jesse goes, just spill it. And at that moment, I'm like, oh boy, Jesse Palmer's earning his bonus right now. If they stick around, then they're pretty chill. He's like, yeah, tell them everything. If they don't go home, hey, maybe they're for you. Not a bad strategy. Producers are probably pumped that Palmer is pushing him, to be honest. I wonder, is Jesse Palmer responsible for so much of this drama? Not to say that he's the one who started it, but he's saying, hey, come clean. That's probably what a good host should do, is try to get their lead to be as honest and transparent as possible. It's like, listen, they're going to see this play out in the edit anyway. You might as well tell them to their face. Trigger warning for all my dairy-free audience members. The show is about to milk the hell out of this finale. It is an utter disgrace. That's right, folks. These are the jokes you came for. No edits, no jump cuts, just me and you, and no cuts. I love that they make the ladies walk up 60 flights of stairs for the final roast, for the rose ceremony, right? Nothing like a little heartbreak after cardio. Ladies ask, they go, where's Susie? Gabby says, anything can happen at this point. You got that right, sister. Anything can and will happen. Clayton breaks the news that Susie bounced, and this is the convo we've all waited for. Since the beginning of the season, we've said, what could possibly make Clayton want to tell the women to their faces that he's been intimate with both of them? He says, I owe it to you all to be very transparent. And I'm like, oh, I've been saying this all along. Don't go full transparent. Go 82% transparent. You never want to go 100%. Clayton tells the remaining two that he was intimate with both of them. The audience reactions are wild. Did you see the audience reactions? Everyone's just like, the audience reactions literally looked like Macaulay Culkin, like, oh, you know what I mean? When he put the aftershave on his face, when Buzz had the tarantula, ah. All right, anyway, you either get that or you don't. If you don't get that reference, you're too young. Live a little. Wear sunblock. Don't smile too much. You'll get crow's feet. Crow's feet comes from smiling, but the older you get, the more crow's feet you get, the less you smile. Isn't that ironic? I'm just kidding, folks. Clayton tells the remaining two he was intimate. The ladies are enraged, rightfully. Gabby's full sobbing. Credit to Clayton for keeping his word about being transparent. Gabby and Rachel both leave the room in different directions. Of course, we can dissect this all we want, and we will all day long. But to me, it's like I'm happy that Clayton told them. Maybe he could have told them individually. I don't know at this point if it would have made a difference. They're like sister wives, right? At this point, they're shout out to the Mormons. Oh, come on. They're friends. They're dating the same guy. He can tell them together. Rachel full on sobbing. She cries into a staircase. The echo sob is a sound I never need to hear again. Just puh, 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 echo, echo. Jesse asks Clayton, how you doing? As multiple women's echoes of sobbing tears resonate through the walls. You know, that wasn't edited in post, right? Sometimes in post-production, they'll manipulate the audio, but it's like, no, for sure, the women are just crying. And he's like, how you doing? And you can just hear this faint sound of tears. Jesse looks at Clayton and says, they're hurt right now. And it's like, oh boy, we have a breaking news. The women are hurt. Yeah, no duh. Clayton says, I can't go into a relationship with secrets. So good for him. He's kind of got this sort of like really stubborn need to tell the truth. And it's like, no, that's not the problem. The problem is that he has to tell the truth. The problem is that he has told them all that he loves them. Not the problem. The problem is not that he has felt it. It's that he has expressed it, which he now knows. I'm sure if he could do it again, he wouldn't do it, but that's the mistake he made, and he's trying to get his way out of it. How emotionally mature of Gabby to hear Clayton explain what happened with Susie with such composure. Gabby says exploring isn't isn't as definitive as loving. So even Gabby's saying, you know, like, hey, exploring is not the problem. It's loving everybody, you know? Gabby says, how do you back it up? If you tell me you love me, then send me home. He says, ultimately, whomever I pick, I love the most. So it's almost like, look, if love is an A and liking is a B, he should have just told all the women he likes them and only given away one A. Does that make sense? So his threshold for love might be set differently than others. And when he says, it's who I love the most, it's like, yeah, it's almost like we're arguing semantics here. Whoever you love the most is the person you should end up with. Whoever you like the most is the person you should end up with. But you just should not tell all three that you love them. I'm starting to sound redundant. You see the reaction shots of disgruntled audience members going, nope. Gabby says, it's hard to hear. Why wouldn't you just save it? Hey, great points, Gabby. Why wouldn't you just save it? He's like, yeah, I wish I could at this point, but I'm an idiot. I was ultra focused on each relationship and I let them explore to a point and I communicated that to the other because I'm a people pleaser and maybe I shouldn't have done that. He didn't say that, but I think we can all agree that's what he's feeling. Gabby says she doesn't think he is being fair right now. She goes, wrong effing answer. Love isn't measured. You can't measure it, so don't say it. I get the sentiment, but you kind of can measure it. Like whoever he feels the most love for. I'll tell you what, there's two types of measurements, qualitative and quantitative. You can't quantify love. You can't measure it in amount of milliliters. He's not like, I love you 62 milliliters, I love her 60. But qualitative measurements means he can say, I love you more than someone else. And you just have to understand that more means more, fulfillment in the heart in whichever way that is. So actually, I disagree with her that you can measure it. It's just not measured in a quantitative. You know what? You get the point. Clayton, you're right. Do we have to go down to basic math 101? Clayton, comforts Rachel, says their love is different. And that's where you kind of agree. Rachel's here. She lost an eyelash. The eyebrow tear smudge is coming off. She's got one fingernail down. She's, everything's going on here. Hey, beautiful. You hate to say it's beautiful watching people cry, but it's beautiful in a sense that you get to see true humanity. You get to see in the moment people's rawest feelings, and that's really interesting TV. You hate to see it at the expense of someone's heartbreaking, but it's interesting TV nonetheless. After a hiatus, the women come back to the rose ceremony, and so this is after Gabby left, right? She left. Clayton apologizes for... hold on. I jumped ahead. Sorry. After the hiatus, the women come back to the rose ceremony. Clayton apologizes for putting him through this tonight. Rachel accepts the rose. Gabby doesn't accept the rose. Oh my gosh. Gabby asks Clayton, do you want to walk me out? Rachel is shocked. So here's Rachel being shocked. We love a good shock to Rachel. She's like, what does this even mean? I don't want to be the last one here. We were friends. We were going to get breakfast tomorrow in Iceland. We're supposed to go to church together, So she's shocked or shooked. Clayton says it's not meant to be a competition, and it's like, well, I hate to tell you about it, but it is. Clayton offers Gabby a last plea to stay. Gabby pleads with Clayton. She says, say you're sorry or something. He goes, I'm sorry. And he did apologize earlier, and there's no shortage of apologies needed. You can do it more than once, Clayton, which is fine. I'm all about it. Hey, I already apologized. I'll reword it. I'll say it in different ways. I'll say it with the subject first and then the verb. I'll switch it around, whatever you need to hear. As long as you feel it, keep on saying it. Rachel is all of us just sitting on the floor. Rachel feels like she is just the last one, not there because he chose her. Yeah, she kind of feels like she's just there at the end of the end of the apocalypse. Gabby returns. Rachel is a real deal for hugging Gabby and being so kind to her friend. Gabby returns for a rose redo. I would die if Gabby said no again. They redo the whole rose ceremony. She's like, it's actually still a no from me. He's like, well, okay, we tried. She accepts his rose redo. Clayton, which wouldn't that be great merch t-shirts if it just said rose redo, question mark. Clayton doesn't want to toast a cheers. Gabby says, let's toast at least to trusting ourselves to stick it out. Because Clayton's like, look, I don't want to cheers like this is a happy moment. This feels horrible. She's like, all right, well, we can at least, give ourselves the faith that we're sticking it out. Claire Crowley joins the live show, says she doesn't think Clayton handled the rose ceremony. She said watching it was excruciating. And then Nick says Clayton might have the best intentions, but didn't take the time to consider his position of power and didn't empathize with the women. I agree anyone who is a lead of the show may have a position of power over contestants or future girlfriends. Positions of power come with socioeconomic tiers, social media clout, fame. So to talk about positions of power, we'll get into this more later. It's kind of like, no duh, it's a position of power. Now, Nick is arguing that Clayton didn't realize his position of power. Every lead on the show has an enormous position of power. It exists in so many different dynamics, but I kind of feel like it's sort of such an obvious thing to say that it doesn't, like, look, I don't even remember what Michelle Young said, probably because it was very measured and nice, but like Claire and Nick, it's like, where's the grace? Claire, you just went through this. Dale Moss's toes are still fresh in all of our minds. You just went through this, and Nick, obviously very close to the show, but a little bit farther away from it all, has talked in the past about the fact that all contestants get PTSD from the show. And yet you know that, and you're still, no part of this conversation was to say, hey, as much as this sucks for Susie and as much as this sucks for Gabby and Rachel, Clayton really dug himself into a hole, and he's really, really tried his best, and I really feel for him. There's none of that. They're just watching the guy, and again, I don't know. We'll talk more about this later. I feel like you can have grace and for all parties involved. You can say, look, they're all in this situation, but Clayton is too. He's not. There's no mention of the producers pushing him to say certain things or do certain things. Yeah, he's his own free will, but they certainly have manipulation tactics that are used to kind of coerce people to act a certain way. I mean, they pretty much pushed Claire to leave. The fact that she even decided to come on the show, probably because she's looking rocking. We love you, Claire. But, it's like, what do we even talk? Are we all watching the same thing? We all know what's going on behind the scenes, how muddy and dirty it all is, that we're really just going to go that hard on to Clayton. Surprising. So that's my position of power. Clayton sees his parents and brothers. All right, let's jump into that. The Bachelorette says, you effed up your season when Claire and Nick say it. Yeah, it might be effed up a little bit, but like, it's not over. We'll see how it ends. Clayton sees his parents and brothers, tells them he fell in love with 3 women. The dad looks shocked. He's like, oh boy. Clayton's dad says, you screwed the pooch. It's going to be interesting today. And I'm like, you're damn right it is. Clayton's mom says, this is not at all what I was expecting. It's like, have you watched the show before? Says she feels Gabby is the consolation prize. And he's like, no, she's not the consolation prize. But of course, the moms feel what the moms feel. But don't get me wrong, parents project. They're rarely right. They kind of come in thinking they know everything, and they haven't watched the show back, right? Gabby meets the family. Now Clayton's mom is crying. Okay, everyone's crying with Clayton. She calls Clayton a great guy, a gem. It might be the only lady saying that right now. But I actually believe he's a good guy. Clayton's dad says, how you doing, Gabby? She goes, good. He goes, are ya? And she's like, I don't know. Rachel tells the dad what went down. Dad says, I would have smacked him. That was fun. We all loved the dad. Good guy. So there they are. The brothers, this was right before they decided to slide into Teddy's DMs. And so clearly Rachel is infatuated and in love with Clayton, which, obviously Gabby and Rachel, there's a lot of love going around, which makes you wonder. Everyone's like, Clayton wasn't, how could he possibly love 3 women? Well, they all love him back, right? We're not saying that Rachel's lying. We're not saying that Gabby's lying. They clearly all love him. So maybe he was able to compartmentalize his relationships that way. We see the heart as this sort of like set boundary. Like you can only put so much into it, but the heart is really a spirit, right? That's it. The heart's a symbol. It's your spirit energy. And I don't know. I love Tom Brady and I love my fiance. I love my family. I don't have other romantic loves, but I'm also not on the show pursuing multiple ones. You choose who you love and you feed that relationship. It's the people that don't feed their relationship that probably dip into infidelity or dip into different things. But in Clayton's scenario, the rules were set. I'm going to pursue all these 30 relationships, and 3 of them he found connections with. Clayton says, and again, I kind of sound like I'm just like being very redundant when I'm saying this, but I know the comment section is going to be like, no, he's the worst. And I kind of think we've decided, hey, guess what? He's probably not. He's probably a man who did this for the first time and made some mistakes. Clayton says he can't stop thinking about Susie. It's like, we get it. She left. There's a lot that wasn't resolved. Then Jesse Palmer says he comes in, which is, I think, a little rare that he comes in, and he's like, what do you want to do? He says things are going to get crazy. Clayton talks with his family and says the clarity has hit him. His heart is here with the women, but also beyond these walls with Susie. Clayton's dad says Susie made the choice to leave. His family says, why didn't you stop her? Clayton says he does think he can get through to her. The dad says when someone walks away, they are done. It's finished. But of course, we saw something else that happened. We didn't see Susie walk away so much as Clayton get really upset and push her away, and he owns up to that. And nobody believes Clayton. Then Jesse walks in, tells Clayton that Susie is still in Iceland, and the crowd is like, ooh. Then we have, I've lost my notes here. Then, we had Cassie, Caitlin, and Rodney came in, and Caitlin, of course, is one of the only contestants vocally feeling bad for Clayton. Really one of the only ones. And then, of course, Cassie says, hey, she kind of foreshadows why she's there. She's like, look, if Clayton pursues Susie, just know, don't over pursue her, obviously in reference to how she felt Colton handled her story. So good to see Cassie. Looks gorgeous. Always good to see Caitlin and Rodney, of course. We'll have to see what happens tonight. We're going to have a 1-hour live stream before tonight's episode, 7 p.m. East Coast, 4 p.m. Pacific. And then we're going to do a nice, big ol' 4-hour after show live stream, East Coast, Central, Mountain, and Pacific time. I'm going to give you guys 1 hour on each, a nice 4-hour after show live stream. You can call in with your thoughts right there, 412-213-9828, and also patreon.com/Dave Neal if you want to put some bread in the tip jar and check out the extra bonus content. So much more coming your way today. We'll get into all the specifics of this, and I got a lot to say. We'll talk to you guys in a little bit. Bye, everybody.